During the medieval age, tournaments of martial prowess were the pinnacle of entertainment. Today, we suit up and voyage back to these ultimate games of chivalry and skill.
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm a science-y math kind of person, and yet I work at the Getty. Famous for its art and culture. Ooh, Hercules. So I decided to go on a quest to learn about art and discover all I can about becoming artsy.
This is really dangerous.
We're turning around.
Accidentally getting impaled by the shard of a breaking lance or, being injured in some way.
Larissa and I are on our way to the American Jousting Alliance to learn to joust for ourselves from jousting legend James Zopie. But first, I'm getting a primer on the history of jousting.
Jousting, I think, is a really interesting thing because we still associate it so much with the Middle Ages, and it's still something that a lot of us have seen in real life. So we've been to a Renaissance fair, we've been to medieval times, and we really have, I think, a physical sense of what jousting is actually like. Jousting began in the early Middle Ages as really a form of practice for combat. All of the skills in tournaments and in jousting are intended to be useful in battle. There's the idea of aim with your spear or your sword, there's the idea of horsemanship, and of course there's the idea of ultimately unhorsing your enemy.
So jousting started in 11th century. How long before it became this kind of athletic, social competition, political event?
That really happens over the course of a few hundred years. So toward the 13th century, you start to get people talking about the idea of chivalry and chivalric behavior.
Like the old version of opening a car door.
Exactly, but there's sort of lots of problematic gender stuff within the concept of chivalry.
No. In the mid-15th century, Europe begins to move towards a construct of national armies, so the establishment of knights serving their lords for battle becomes obsolete. But the interest in knights, heroics, and even jousting is stronger than ever. And we see that in medieval manuscripts at the Getty.
These two pages are from a mid-15th century manuscript that was made for the Duke of Burgundy. And I chose them because they're such vivid depictions of medieval battle. Here you can see a variety of weaponry. There's broadswords, there's spears and lances. And you can really get a sense of the kind of clanging of swords and the kind of shouting and bloodshed and all of the things that would have been happening at a medieval battle.
This place is so cool.
I mean, it's great to see the life-sizeness of it. I mean, I think when we look at things in images, because they're so small, you sort of get a window into this world, but I think it's a really different situation to be around it physically and to have that kind of sense of height and space and length.
And my horse would go down this way.
And you would have a rider coming towards you, trying to knock you off your horse.
But before we can ride down those jousting lanes, we first have a day of training ahead of us.
Welcome to American Jousting Alliance training headquarters, and we're going to do some fun things here.
First up, James is teaching us how to wield a lance while also keeping control of our horse's reins.
Pull back and say, whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. Very good, very good. I know now you're going to be able to stop the horse.
Ride on home.
Slightly the wrong period, but
wrong period? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
This move works for jousting with the heavier lances, and it's really important. You throw it up like this and make it buoyant, right? And then palm up.
Now that we are absolute professionals at holding ring lances and our reins, Larissa and I can now get on our horses to practice our first medieval combat skill. Luckily, we both have a good amount of riding experience, but neither of us have ever held lances while on a horse, so we're starting with ring spearing, which helped knights hone their precision lance aiming skills.
Good.
At first, we didn't do great.
That's it. Stay with it. Get it, Marissa. Good.
But soon enough, we were both seasoned ring spearers and ready to move on to the heavier lances, practicing on the same kind of medieval contraption knights would have used, the quintain.
Good. Good work. That was a nice hit, girl. Woo! Get it, get it, get it, get it. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
Hi, everyone. We just did that.
It was like thrilling, but also like it probably doesn't look like much, but it feels like it's very intense. But there's so much to remember. You know, there's like holding onto the reins, there's the different positions, the different kind of motions that James talked to us about, and like remembering the exact moments to do all of that stuff in order to make a very slow, what feels like a slow motion hit. Like, I cannot imagine doing this at a full gallop.
I did have a moment when I was over here where I like started to get a little nervous, and I'm like, no. Like, cause there's no room for that. You're like, there's a horse, there's a lance, and it's like, okay, focus.
I was picturing sort of like the medieval joust and having crowds in the stands going crazy and like the thunder of the hooves. But, you know, James also explaining all the things that can go wrong if you don't have the shield up, or if you pull your lance up a little too early, or whatever it is, you could easily lance right into somebody's head. Thinking about the kind of like physicality of this and the danger of it, the practice of this in the Middle Ages must have been so intense, I think, the experience.
Yeah. Too bad we don't have turkey legs for...
One thing about turkey legs is that turkeys are native to the Americas and would not have been eaten in medieval Europe. So, but you could expect soups, fish, meats, candied fruits, all of this kind of stuff. So we don't have that for lunch, unfortunately.
All right. Well, we have turkey wraps though.
Yeah, turkey wraps, that is. You can get a sense from these images of how elaborate jousting and tournaments had become by the later Middle Ages. And so it's really about the pageantry of it. It's about the display. It's about showing your heraldic colors. It's about showing your coat of arms.
What's heraldic?
Heraldic is like relating to heraldry. So
What's heraldry?
Heraldry is basically a system of images and colors that would have been related to particular families or dynasties. And so each family had its own heraldic colors.
Like
this
a
is
family crest?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a Scottish like kilt kind of tartan.
Yeah, if you've heard of
just
like family
analogous.
colors, a coat of arms, all of these things are considered part of your heraldry.
Okay.
And so this would have been immediately recognizable and legible to medieval viewers. They would have been able to say, oh, well, that's the XXX family, or that's the YYY family, because the colors and the symbols would have been so closely associated with those families. And so when you get to tournaments, especially in the later Middle Ages, it's really important to show your heraldic colors, your symbols. It's kind of like your brand. It's like wearing a team uniform or something.
After lunch on the ranch, Larissa and I began to suit up in our own medieval heraldry, thanks to James and his selection of jousting costumes.
You know who I feel like?
Who?
Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
From the 2001 cinematic masterpiece, A Knight's Tale.
What else?
The one, the only, Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein!
Funny story is that Ulrich von Liechtenstein was a real person. Who we actually know a lot about. He was a 13th century German knight and poet. And we actually have a lot of his writing on chivalric conduct and his kind of rules for how a knight should behave. And the practice of the jousting in that movie is, I mean, it is action-packed, but is also like the idea of these kind of tournaments that would happen across the countryside, and you would see the same knights at each of the tournaments, and so there would be kind of rivalries that formed, and certain reputations. So you would have, I think, these events that made up the tournament that would be spectator sports and really entertaining for people to come see. It's like a modern day sporting tournament of some kind where people get eliminated and there's this kind of like sort of big final joust. One thing that I think is so interesting is that the Middle Ages, as we can see here today, still lives in the 21st century, and it lives really in our imagination in a really powerful way that we still interact with really almost every day, even though we don't realize it. There's like always
fairy tales, fantasy, castles, swords,
princesses,
armor,
knights in shining armor, benevolent kings. Dragons, maybe not so much. I think we associate them with the Middle Ages, though, through their inclusion in fairy tales and in lots of other magical media.
Okay.
Yeah, what's so interesting, I think, about the practice of tournaments and of jousting really throughout the Middle Ages is even though it's ostensibly to be combat ready, to be, ready to follow your lord into battle at any point, it really becomes kind of a way of life for a lot of these knights and the participants in it too. And it becomes a pastime and really a part of noble identity for sure. And the way that knights and men especially sort of saw themselves in the world was really bound up in the idea of chivalry and the kind of practice of chivalry, which touched all of these different parts of their lives, not just in combat, but also the way they conducted themselves at home and in court and all of these different places.
And the ideals of the knight, he was supposed to be honorable and chivalric and defend the downtrodden, defend the ones that needed it, and stand up for their rights. And that was a very noble cause.
This is a really important idea for the formation of late medieval culture. By the end of the Middle Ages, knights are not as called upon as they used to be. And so jousting and tournamenting becomes really a courtly pastime, and it becomes
entertainment.
Yeah, a real entertainment. I think what is interesting to me about the way that we reenact and think about jousting today is that we've really taken the idea of chivalry and run with it. So we kind of think about chivalry as a way of treating women nicely, opening the door for them. Chivalry in the Middle Ages is really complicated. It's really this moral code that embodies sort of knightly combat prowess, but also piety, Christian piety, as well as courtly manners, which would have encompassed women, but that was really only a small part of what medieval chivalry was. And it really is this kind of guiding idea of how knights should behave, not just to women, but also to their lord and to their god and to their church.
I like the birds on this one. Look,
Yeah.
This guy's got like a straight up duck on there.
This is something related to his family, and you can also see the really elaborate toppers for the helms that they have, which also would have been related heraldically. We see these things as super colorful and super distinctive, and
I like it. Normalize color. Normalize bows on men.
it would have made knights super visible out on the tournament field too, and it would have made them really easy to identify right away.
Heraldry could also be found on the knight's shield, the next part of our medieval training.
Stand out.
I've got some weight.
Oh, wow.
Get it out there in front of you like this, and it's really your protection, and you want to make sure it's up high enough you can see over the top. The wind
is killing me.
You can see over the top of it, right?
Did you catch the terror in my eyes?
Okay, here we go. Good, good, good. When they stick like that, they're a lot safer and it looks good. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Light hit, center the shield. Good, get it down there. Good, 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 good.
What do I do after?
That's when you want to release.
I let it go. Cool.
So far, we conquered precision lances, horsemanship, shields, and our ground practice. And we're nearly professional jousters at this point, ready for the main event. Because Larissa and I are actually absolute beginners at this, we are not going to be jousting each other. We are going to be jousting against James. We had the choice to either hit or take a hit. Larissa will be taking a hit from James's lance on her shield, but first, a dry run.
Dry run, here we go.
Whoa there, horsey. And now it's time for the hit.
Shield up.
After a dry run, I will be attempting to deliver a hit from my lance to James's shield. I miss the first pass. But then...
All right, let's make a hit. Make a hit, that occurs. Woo! Good, beautiful. Okay.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is so hard and rewarding and interesting. And I feel like you and I felt the same way. Like we've both been wanting to do this like our entire lives. So I feel like that was like a bucket list adventure that we went through together.
I mean, as a medievalist, looking at images like this for such a long time and really making it part of my life in a way, these images are immortalized and in manuscripts to be things that people look back on fondly and which are beautiful and, you know, nice to look at. But knowing the kind of athleticism and the kind of physical danger that was presented to them in these images, I think that I will always look at jousting and images of combat and battles and all of these kinds of things a little bit differently.
We've only skimmed the surface on experiencing jousting in the Middle Ages, but what we do share is a deep nostalgia for the 15th and 16th century jousters, in the same way that those knights romanticized jousting over 400 years before them. If you want to learn more, Larissa's exhibit, Fantasy of the Middle Ages, is live at the Getty Center through September 11th, 2022, and explores the relationship between medieval history and pop culture over time. And if you're in the Southern California area and want to try some jousting lessons and medieval skills at arms yourself, be sure to give James a call at the American Jousting Alliance. Thank you so much for watching.